Hey there everyone, my squids and squidettes, my humble devotees, my children, it is your boy, your father, your Papa Yam. You read the title, we are talking about cursed Amazon bikes today. I have never given a bike from Amazon my genuine endorsement, but you guys keep buying them anyway. Half the time I see as many wretched Chinese Amazon bikes for sale on Facebook Marketplace as I do grotesque Gixxers, and that is truly saying something. So today, instead of making a general sweeping statement about how terrible Amazon bikes are, let's look at a handful a little more closely and see truly, once and for all, if any Bezos bikes are worth it. Today's video is sponsored by our friends over at ASV Inventions. Now let's get into it. If you search the word motorcycle on Amazon, the first real motorcycle that comes up after toys or children's bike, and I am using the term real incredibly loosely here, is the HHH Hitachi Titan 250 EFI motorcycle 6-speed sport street bike with oversized front and rear brakes and custom alloy rims, color sporty black. Geez, this video is going to be easy. I'm going to be able to hit my word count just by reading the product listings for these bikes. These Chinese bikes can be tricky sometimes because they are constantly rebranded and sold under different names. So this model, the Triple H Hitachi Titan 250, is actually made by Zongshen, who are one of the largest motorcycle manufacturers in China, claiming an annual output of over 1 million bikes. Honda, eat your heart out. Taking a closer look at this bike, we'll see that it has visually striking tricolor livery showcasing the Titan EFI 250 denotation. It actually says EFI twice on each side of this motorcycle because Triple H really wants you to know this bike is fuel injected, a technology that's been in many bikes since the 1980s. Or the individuals designing this bike don't have an understanding of what each word in the name means and just cherry-picked each component of the 15-word title they wanted to incorporate in the livery. The Hitachi website claims this 250cc engine, which I'm assuming is an air-cooled single, probably cloned for a 30-year-old Honda or Suzuki engine, is making a whopping 16 horsepower and 13 foot-pounds of torque. I'm pretty sure this Zongshen 250 is the same CRF 230 clone engine that we actually had in the Boom BD250, which we torture tested and actually did pretty well. The Titan 250 has a 6-speed gearbox, which can get you up to a claimed 75 miles an hour. I mean, look, that's no 186, but 75 miles per hour on a Chinese bike in a box, if you were even able to get anywhere close to that, is about as frightening as 200 miles per hour on an open-class superbike that was built by skilled technicians instead of children in a dusty factory filled with cigarette smoke and farm animals. And I can attest to the validity of this statement because I have taken a Chinese motorcycle to a God-given 69 miles per hour, and I will tell you what, the twisted frame and constant wandering of the front wheel made it about as sketchy as going either 48 miles per hour downhill on a road bike or in fact doing 212 miles per hour on a prepped H2. This bike also has dual disc brakes. The description put it more eloquently than I ever could when it said, as any rider would tell you, power is nothing without good brakes. With great power comes great responsibility, and these cheese block dual disc front rotors are going to be what's going to stop you going down the road or impaling yourself into a tree. And brakes is spelled wrong in this listing, so that gives me a lot of confidence. This motorcycle costs $2,429 plus a $400 delivery fee, so it's going to cost you right around $3,000. A price that could afford you many better made motorcycles like a Honda Rebel, a Ninja 250, or practically a brand new Royal Enfield if you just want to squeeze a little more change from the couch cushions. Plus, you won't need to assemble these bikes, which is a huge point of contention for a beginner getting one of these bikes in a box that needs final assembly and a full PDI. Here are a few snippets from different reviews for the Titan 250. Great starter bike for first-time riders. Shipping was early by 5 days or so. Only issue are there's no instructions for assembly and was missing a nut for the front tire. The transmissions did give me some issues going in first, but that's getting fixed now. Other than that, runs perfectly. So what I think this reviewer means to say is that it is not a great starter bike for beginners, considering it didn't have the necessary parts to keep the front wheel on. If there was ever a piece of motorcycle you really didn't want to fall off, it is the front wheel. Jesus Christ. Another review states, I bought this motorcycle over 1 month ago. I have put 500 miles on it and have had nothing but problems. So I say pass on the Titan 250. Chinese Grom. You see fake Groms for sale all the time online. I think people buy them by the pallet from Alibaba and then sell them on Craigslist for like 800 bucks a pop. This Triple H 125cc adult motorcycle gas, motorcycle dirt, motorcycle street bike, motorcycle bike blue is a long-winded way of saying it is a knockoff Grom. You will see it listed as a Vader 125 as well as a Hellcat 125, Tao 125, and X Pro 125. These Grom clones have a 125cc air-cooled engine that makes 8 horsepower if you install a full system exhaust and run special Shell race oil just like a Ducati V4R. The listing claims this motorcycle is street legal, although it cannot be ridden on the highway. Whatever that means, it also cannot be sold in California. These bikes have disc brakes in the front and rear, an upside-down fork, and metal shavings in the oil. Guaranteed. It costs just $1,200 before the $400 shipping cost. One of the recommended reviews states, absolutely love them. Breathable, light, and no straps to fuss with. Just slide them on and ride. So I think this listing used to be for assless chaps before it was repurposed for the Chinese Grom. These listings are always so janky, but if you do a little research, you can see a lot of feedback from people who have owned or used these Honda Grom clones. The typical consensus seems to be that if you're not averse to wrenching and are familiar working on small machines like pit bikes or lawnmowers, you can get by with a Chinese Grom clone. But don't buy one as a machine you're going to need to rely on for commuting or routine transportation. Instead, buy one as a toy to goof around with and work on. Try to find a brand new one locally to avoid the delivery surcharge, and trust that sooner or later entropy will begin to take hold of your precious Grom clone, and maintaining it will no longer be worth the $1,000 or so of disposable cash you used to purchase it. It seems consumers are constantly inundated with advertisements for low-quality, cheap imitations. From Amazon bikes to home appliances, companies are trying to schlep you cost-saving alternatives to products that are the real deal and built to last. That's part of the reason we're stoked to have partnered with ASV Inventions. The other reason is because they make the best aftermarket levers for motorcycles for dirt and street. They advertise their levers as being unbreakable, which means if you break it, they replace it no matter how it happened. Gone are the days of replacing your eBay squid levers once a season because you sent it too hard on the trail or the track. ASV has a massive catalog of levers for motorcycles and dirt bikes, with levers for models that span from present day all the way back to 1985. We installed ASV levers on our R6 and it made a massive difference in the tactile feel of the levers. No matter what type of bike you ride, follow the link in the description down below and find a new set of levers from ASV. It'll be the last pair you ever need. Use the link below and use the code YAMMY to receive a 15% discount on your order. Thanks so much to ASV for the support on the channel. We're super excited to be working together. Again, use that link in the description down below and code YAMMY for 15% off. Now let's get back to the video. Before, Chinese motorcycle brands like CF Moto were routinely making headlines for dismantling the values of free market capitalism in America, there has been one Chinese bike that has become the ubiquitous Amazon bike in a box. The motorcycle in question is the X Pro Hawk 250. This bike has an air-cooled 229cc engine that this listing excitedly points out is a new and improved engine from Hensim Hauson, whatever that means. This bike is making 14 horsepower and 11 foot-pounds of torque with a 310-pound curb weight. That means it's not going to move very good. The X Pro Hawk is listed on Amazon for $1,779 and actually includes free shipping. Kind of a bargain. This bike really has no discernible features to speak of. It is just a Chinese interpretation of a bare-bones air-cooled dual sport. Because these bikes have been popular, quote-unquote, as far as Amazon bikes go, there is actually a decent supply of parts available online to purchase when you inevitably break every last component on this thing because you sent it on the trails. It seems the general owner consensus is similar to the Chinese Groms. For the right owner for mechanical know-how, it is a fine bike if you want a cheap mule to serve as a farm bike for rainy days when you leave your nice motorcycle in the stable. The problem is that these bikes are priced in a way that is catered towards beginner riders with zero experience, and these inexperienced riders don't know how to assemble their motorcycles properly, break in their motorcycles properly, or care for these bikes properly. A Japanese motorcycle will happily oblige under the same circumstances as they are overbuilt and over-engineered to ridiculous standards, whereas a Chinese bike will need fresh oil immediately, and it will need every inch gone over with a fine-tooth comb to ensure bolts are torqued to spec, brakes are bled functioning properly, the electrical connectors are in place, no hose is loose, and countless other little details that the noob rider won't even consider. So their bike is going to break or literally rattle itself apart because it was never put together right in the first place. They'll have to struggle to fix it themselves because no shop's gonna touch a Chinese dual sport. So bearing all this in mind, you get what you pay for. It has a bulletproof Honda clone engine, a tubular frame, and minimal components. There's no reason it shouldn't work in the most basic sense, but it won't have the fit and finish of a Japanese bike. It won't last as long as a Japanese bike, and it won't have any resale value at all. Another bike from X Pro that is sold on Amazon is the X Pro X25 125cc cafe cruiser racer gas bike, bicycle style motorcycle street bike. Kind of feels like I'm having a stroke reading these. This is a funny little old-fashioned looking motorcycle. It looks like a Royal Enfield with an autoimmune disease, but hey, I guess that's the type of bike that is par for the course for the A2 boys in Europe. It has an air-cooled 125cc making 8 horsepower and 6 foot-pounds of torque. This is kind of like the Honda Monkey, using the same engine and mini bike ethos of the Grom, but in retro style. It has a carburetor, a Kickstarter, and a claimed top speed of 55 miles per hour depending on rider size and road conditions. That figure was likely tested with a 100-pound rider whose entire body had been shaven clean like an Olympic swimmer downhill with the wind on their back. To slow this speed demon down, the X Pro Cafe Racer makes use of drum brakes both front and rear. That sounds safe. Though anemic in stature, it is in some ways a full-sized motorcycle. It has 17-inch wheels and tires and a 32-inch seat height. This bike is cheaper than even the Grom clone, costing $999 with a $400 delivery fee. The reviews on Amazon seem to have the same sentiment of the X Pro Hawk, claiming it is a good deal if you know how to work on motorcycles and can fix everything that's wrong with it upon delivery, including missing bolts, untrue wheels, loose or broken wiring connectors, and bad oil. I'm unsure if that constitutes a quote-unquote good deal for many. Again, are you looking for just a toy with an engine and have $1,000 to spare? Go for it, I guess, but should a beginner rider trust their lives and training to one of these machines? Likely not. The last bike I want to talk about today is the most expensive motorcycle I can seem to find on Amazon. This is the 250cc motorcycle RTR retro style bike 5-speed manual dual muffler from brand Generic, according to the listing. But after doing some research, this motorcycle actually seems to be produced by the Chinese company Dongfeng. This bike has a 223cc air-cooled engine that is said to put out strong, predictable power with incredible gas mileage. The Dongfeng Cruiser has disc brakes and even has a liquid pressure brake caliper, which I assume must be a poorly translated version of hydraulic. There are no units on the power figures, it just says 16 and 17, but no matter what unit of measurement they're using, that seems awfully generous for a 223cc air-cooled single. This bike sucks. It's listed for $4,200 with a $320 delivery fee. In what world would somebody spend $4,500 on this dumb piece of crap? It has one of those weird, wide-ass drag bars that Busch Light drinking domestic abusers always have on their 1999 Harley Softails. And also the tires seem almost like dual sport tires. They're kind of knobby, which is strange. Like I said, this bike sucks. Don't buy it. So, is any Amazon bike that comes in a box worth it? No, not really. There are way too many caveats. Even the good ones, which is an incredibly generous statement, require so much extra care and attention just to function even close as advertised. If you want a super cheap project bike, just buy an old Japanese bike off of Craigslist. I think the Venn diagram of someone who is knowledgeable enough to fix and repair a Chinese Amazon bike, but too cheap to just buy a used bike, is incredibly small. And they actually are very vocal and spend a ton of time on the forums and actually blasted me on one of the Chinese bike forums. It's really funny. The only people that are really eyeing these bikes are super young beginners who don't know anything. Look at it this way. Spend $2,500 on an Amazon bike that barely works and you're able to ride for maybe 500 miles in one season. Then you'll be able to sell it for maybe $500 the next year and you just wasted $2,000 and a season of riding. At that point, you might as well have just saved a whole other year, gotten a real motorcycle. These Amazon bikes are never a good idea. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Did I crush your dreams? Were you looking to start and actually believe that a brand new new motorcycle that shows up on your doorstep for less than $2,000 would be a worthwhile purchase? Do you have 6 busted Chinese bikes in your garage right now? Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Maybe I'll destroy another Chinese motorcycle in the future. Only one way to find out. Fact: in 1952, a man named Władysław Kołakowicz, thank you for my scriptwriter for putting that name in there, I cannot read that first try, a Polish pole vaulter, famously showed his disapproval to the jeering crowd by raising his middle finger after a successful jump in the Olympics. This defiant gesture, known as the Kołakowicz gesture, was a powerful and unconventional response to hostility from the crowd and remains an iconic moment in sports history. Goodbye.
Keep watching Gaming Noob!